You've hit play on the Screen Companion, a show about making your viewing time count. I'm here with Andrew and John. We're talking Nicolas Cage, Con Air from 1997, Snake Eyes from 1998, and Gone in 60 Seconds from the year 2000.
The year 2000.
The year 2000. Andrew, what is Con Air about?
Con Air is an action flick about a army ranger who served hard time, played by Nicolas Cage. He's just going home because he's on parole, but he's on a flight full of the worst types of criminals, and they hijack the plane to try to get to freedom.
Thank you, Andrew, for not making a joke out of your summary. I feel like if John had done it, maybe he would have said, well, it's about cons in the air.
I think I would have, at least referenced stuff other actors have done.
I try to keep summaries very short and sweet. It's kind of like, oh, well, it's a movie about da-da-da-da-da, and it's, like 5 minutes long. It's like, dude, that's not a summary. You just told me the whole damn movie. Yeah, it is cons in the air, but there's a little more substance to it.
John, how does Nicolas Cage's performance as Cameron Poe stack up compared to other roles he's done?
I'm going to say this is one of my favorite roles of his.
Is it just the hair?
It's the attempt at the accent. The only thing I'd give it better is the 10 minutes where he was the bad guy in Face Off. But, yeah, it's the hair, it's the accent. He's supposed to be a badass, and I think he only gets into, one fist fight.
I know. I haven't seen this movie in a long time, and I forgot how little he's actually in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But what he does well. It was cool that he seemed to try to hold on to a southern accent for the whole movie. He didn't drop it in the middle of it. Did you, John, see anything weird about his acting choices here?
In general, there's a scene in every one of his movies when he has to fake act. It's like he does these very specific things he chooses all the time, where he talks fast and tries to intimidate the other guy and, fails. I think he did it to Ving Rhames' character, Nathan. He was trying to get him to not kill the cops.
When he's playing a character who's playing a character in the moment, I gotcha. Huh, yeah, I didn't really think about that. I saw a parallel to Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. The way Dalton is depicted as being something of a warrior scholar. They show Poe doing a lot of exercise and reading in prison. He learned Spanish. I wish they leaned more on all that studying he did during his sentence.
None of that came up.
Besides his prison buff physique, none of it turned out to be useful, or there was no callback to any of it, was there?
No.
Maybe he called Danny Trejo muchacho at one point. We just missed it. Everyone else seemed to.
Deleted scene.
Yeah.
You don't need to take Spanish lessons to call somebody a muchacho.
3 of the bad guys on the plane were of Mexican descent, right? South American descent in some manner. He didn't speak a word of Spanish to any of them.
Damn. So what was the point of all that? I guess just to show that he was keeping his nose clean in prison?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe it was a parallel to how Cyrus the Virus was also using his prison time to mentally increase his own capacities.
But Cyrus had years in prison to train. He'd been doing it, they said since 14 or 15 he had been incarcerated?
It still somehow had, all of them. He was a murderer, an extortionist, everything but rape, I guess, because that was Danny Trejo's gig.
Andrew, what do you think of Malkovich in this movie?
Very cheesy, yet he steals the show. He's a good villain in this movie. It seems like he's having a lot of fun playing it. I've never seen interviews of him talking about this film. I can't tell if he was just having a really good time with it, or if he detested it so much that he just went in the direction he went to try to take the piss out of it, but it ended up working. Because sometimes it borders on parody, like some of his acting choices.
Pilot wants to know what's next.
He's to land at Carson City Airport as scheduled.
Carson City. The law is down there. You lost your mind?
According to my last psych evaluation. Yes.
If John Malkovich is overacting in this film, from Franz Sanchez in License to Kill on one end of the scale to Drax in Moonraker, where do you think Malkovich's performance falls?
Oh man, he falls at a solid... He's kind of falling where... Oh gosh, where does he fall?
He's under Jonathan Pryce, isn't he?
He's kind of Jonathan Pryce. That is probably the best one. I wanted to give it to the guy who was the villain in, is it Stromberg in Spy Who Loved Me? But he's also really... I don't get anything that he was trying to do in that movie. It'll never make sense to me. He wanted to kill everyone so that he could peacefully live in the ocean, which he already was doing, with everyone alive.
He just watched Little Mermaid too many times.
He lands on the Elliot Carver scale, I think. You're absolutely right.
Really? Because I was just playing devil's advocate for you. I didn't think Malkovich was that broad compared to something like him in Red. Is there a moment or a line delivery that really spells it out for you that, oh man, this guy's really hamming it up?
Almost any time he did this inflection where he almost sounded like a bratty teen. Because he would always be like, welcome to Con Air. That's what he would do. He would trail off on things, be like, da 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 da, don't kill the cops. It was very hammy, and you know what I would liken it to is not a Bond villain, but the hamminess, I would put it on par, maybe a step or two lower. Christopher Plummer in Star Trek VI. I mean, you could tell he was thrilled to be General Chang. Just this guy either really loved it or he was just sick of it, and he was like, I'm going to tank this movie. But he became memorable.
I feel like Plummer in Star Trek VI, that's good ham. So are you saying, for you, was Malkovich good ham?
It skated a little bit, but it was good hammy. I cannot put someone else in the role. Like, I can't do it with General Chang, I can't do it with Cyrus the Virus. It was John Malkovich's role, for sure.
John, how plausible does the premise feel? Were there parts where you got stuck in plot hole potholes?
Well, every one of these movies, these bad guys are always so well organized, and they're out militarying the military every time. Like, come on. They're sitting in a jail cell writing letters that get read to each other, so they can't plan this that well in code. There's no way they're planning this that well in code.
Take it a step further. When they take over the plane, the only people that are working in concert initially are Cyrus the Virus and Diamond Dog.
Yeah, Ving Rhames. Yes, it is.
And Pinball.
Oh, and Pinball.
Yeah, Pinball was crucial.
But everybody else, they got recruited into the scheme. I'm amazed how disciplined they all were. Nobody tried to figuratively or literally stab each other in the back.
Well, because, like, Cyrus was supposed to be kind of like, even the dialogue, he's the baddest of these bad dudes. So I guess there's maybe this whole thing where they were like, oh, damn, even I didn't do that. So maybe they just didn't want to mess with him.
He wasn't even the scariest guy in the flight at one point.
Sure, yeah.
John, is there anything that feels so 90s, either in the script or the filmmaking?
Yes, and it comes up again in Gone in 60 Seconds. It's basically the beginning of the Suicide Squad movie. We only have so much time in the first act, so we're just going to do a rapid fire. Here's your characters, and here's what they do.
This one's done it all. Kidnapping, robbery, murder, extortion. His name,
is Cyrus Grissom, a.k.a. Cyrus the Virus. 39 years old, 25 of them spent in our institutions. But he's bettered himself inside, earned 2 degrees, including his Juris Doctor. He also killed 11 fellow inmates, incited 3 riots, and escaped twice.
That just felt like every ensemble 90s movie ever.
Doesn't sound like you like that.
It works here because it's just hype. All the actors are established. 2 out of these 3 movies are Jerry Bruckheimer, and he defines 90s action movies.
He's got a formula.
Yeah.
This cast is pure 90s. John Cusack, Ving Rhames, Steve Buscemi, John Malkovich, like the rest of them, have all worked plenty. But I think the 90s might have been Malkovich's career peak.
I will agree with you, only in the sense that I honestly haven't seen a lot of John Malkovich movies.
Because I think the cornerstone of his entire career is... Do you know what I'm going to say, John?
Yes, and I'm going to counter with a different movie. So you go first.
I'll ante up with being John Malkovich.
I was going to counter In the Line of Fire, both 90s movies.
I haven't seen In the Line of Fire. Do you think more people have seen Being John Malkovich or In the Line of Fire?
John Malkovich, absolutely. I'm still saying, now that I've got the platform, go watch In the Line of Fire, people.
Become an active listener by joining the Screen Companion. Subscribe on YouTube, hit us up on X, and our Facebook group. Let us know your favorite episodes and what topics or films we should tackle next. Further support the host by buying his novel, Self-Recognition, a futuristic detective story, available on Amazon in print and digital formats. Now, back to the show. Andrew, what do you think of when it comes to 90s action movies? What do you think gives it a distinct flavor compared to, say, the post-Matrix era, besides the use of CGI?
I think the spectacle, the 80s started that with action flicks, I think, is just the sheer spectacle of it all and how big everything is. And the men were bigger, the explosions were bigger, and the body counts were bigger. And so it carried over into the 90s. When you look at the 80s, one of the best action movies ever made for my money is Die Hard. Terrorists take over a building, that's pretty scary. So how do you up the ante in the next decade? What if prisoners take over a plane? That's pretty bad. When I think of 90s action, I think of typically pretty solid, I think they're more complicated characters than we definitely get now. Especially because I think a lot of action movies now are more comic book type movies. They take that formula where the protagonist is just kind of a great dude through and through. But these guys usually had flaws, or they were John Matrix in Commando or Nicolas Cage in this one where they're just like perfect killing machines, you know? It's a bygone era, unfortunately.
What John was saying earlier about how these movies from the 90s, it's like they're cutting promos at the beginning, setting up characters. But what I noticed in all these movies, they set up who they are, but then they do give you moments that also show who they are. And I feel like action movies now, they'll give you the dossier at the beginning, and then that's it for the character development. And then the rest of the stuff they do is just to move the plot along and doesn't necessarily show you more about who they are or reinforce what they told you about them at the beginning.
Yeah, because like in this movie, he's an Army Ranger, and you can tell in the beginning he's an honorable dude, but to stay behind on the plane when he could have left and just been with his family because he knew it was the right thing to do, like, he's the star of the movie, so you know he's going to stay, but that's still something where it's like, I think in a modern movie they would have had also a backstory where he didn't leave his men behind. They could still surprise us with their choices back then. I don't really think they surprise us anymore now.
When they set up Cameron Poe as a ranger, during the movie I'm thinking, did they just do that to make him come off as a badass? But then when he reiterates that he's staying on the plane because Bubba needs his insulin, and he says, "Leave no man behind." It's like, oh my god, okay, great. They're actually giving him a motivation for why he's not running away as soon as possible. Okay, so it feels a little better now that they did that introduction of making him a ranger. John, who is your favorite supporting character?
Oh boy. I'm going to give it a tie, just so I could talk about both Cole Meany and Steve Buscemi.
As long as you don't pick Dave Chappelle,
no.
you can go ahead.
Cole Meany, for me, did such a good job. So at this point, in the late 90s, Cole Meany's had bit part on Next Generation, and that's, I think, it for what the American audience is going to know him for. Yes, he became full-blown chief of engineering in Deep Space Nine, but that's it. Two, I don't want to say niche because I love him, but two niche sci-fi shows, and he's still on there keeping up with all these amazing actors.
And the other guy you mentioned...
Old Steve Buscemi. I love this trend in movies where it's not about the serial killer. The serial killer is always the nicest guy.
Besides this and Billy Madison, can you think of a third movie in the 90s where he played an utter weirdo?
I think everything he did with Adam Sandler, he was an utter weirdo.
Yeah, and even in Reservoir Dogs, he was pretty weird.
I'm remembering him in Wedding Singer. Yeah, he made a whole career out of being a freak.
Good for him. He was a fireman before. He was a hero. Move to Hollywood and be a weirdo.
But I love that he eventually did Boardwalk Empire, so he showed he could do more than just play the creep. Andrew, what was your favorite non-action scene?
Oh man, that's a tough one, because I feel like this movie is pretty non-stop.
Well, let me rephrase. Did you enjoy more of the stuff of Poe and Baby-O, a.k.a. Bubba from Forrest Gump, more of their stuff on the plane with Guard Bishop, or the stuff on the ground with John Cusack and Colm Meaney?
Let's just be honest with each other here. Like, the stuff in the plane with Cage and Bubba was mostly like, oh no, my beaties. With John Cusack, it was more like, here comes Colm Meaney just being a jerk, and John Cusack's trying to, we have a man on the inside, and Colm Meaney's, I don't care.
Shoot the plane down.
Oh my gosh, that's like the biggest plot hole I can think of.
Yeah, right.
It bothers me that they would have shot that plane down so fast.
He was right, too, because they crashed in the Vegas Strip. A lot of more people died.
Yeah, it was a terrible decision. Even John Cusack would have been like, hey, you know what, I get it.
It's a few criminals, at that point, one guard hostage, versus everybody in the Strip. How many people died when the plane rotor just randomly ran off into a casino?
On the Strip, millions and millions of dollars in property damage. And dead people. And now you have a serial killer at the end of the movie on the loose becoming a Vegas high roller.
The way the movie treats serial killers is something else.
3 or 4 people are technically serial killers.
Yeah.
At least.
Steve Buscemi's the only one who gets the title. Because he had 23 that he f***ed him up in the same way.
Well then, Andrew, what do you think is the best action moment?
It's a really good climactic finish. The fire truck thing. Nick Cage is dangling off the edge of it, and then John Cusack's on the bike, and he comes up on there and sprays that one dude with the fire hose, and John Malkovich gets stabbed. I like a good dangling off of other vehicles action moment.
Malkovich ends up on a ladder, which goes through a catwalk, and then he lands in some power lines, which I thought was the end. But then no, somehow he ends up under a crusher, some recycling plant or something. How did he end up there?
I don't remember either. He's aware enough, too, to watch it come down on his own face.
That was satisfying.
That was strange, because it would have been right off the Strip.
Yeah.
It's not like they went out of the city. I think they were still pretty much in the heart of Vegas. And so it's kind of like, what the hell? I completely understand. Yeah, it was a very, Looney Tunes end for him, honestly.
John, how do you think the film could have improved?
If they'd given old Cameron Poe more time to work on his accent, little stuff, like all the plane puns came from just John Malkovich, so maybe get some more plane puns from other people.
But that just shows how Malkovich is the mastermind. He's so smart.
He's making the same softball airplane puns because someone else named it Con Air.
Hey, John, puns are a great way to measure someone's intelligence.
Oh, really?
Yes, anybody who's listened to this show long enough and knows all the puns I've committed.
Committed. Committed is a very good word for your puns.
Yeah.
I think this movie went on a little too long. Once the plane lands, the tension is over. Going into another action sequence where they're chasing the bad guys through Vegas, it's stretching the taffy too thin. And I think John Cusack is miscast. I don't buy him as Action Man Special Agent. I thought he was a prison administrator for the first half of the movie. He's in this with Cage, Malkovich, Rames. Cusack doesn't belong in an attack helicopter or riding a motorcycle unless it's a buddy cop comedy. Hire Kurt Russell instead, or Keanu Reeves. Wesley Snipes would have been cool, but not Cusack.
Was Reeves an action star at this point? I don't think he was, because Matrix was, 99?
He was in Speed.
Well, he was in Speed, he was in Point Break.
Heck yeah.
So really, with Point Break, you're proving my point.
Oh, they could have gotten Patrick Swayze to be the John Cusack role.
Oh, they could have. Yeah.
Oh, that would have been great.
I would have accepted that. While we're talking alternative casting, I liked Malkovich's cheese in this, but John, do you think Gary Busey could have done it?
Ooh, that's a whole different movie right there. Because Gary Busey's bringing the crazy. John Malkovich is acting, but Gary Busey, he's not acting. He's bringing that crazy. His acting's going to be more poignant. Like you said, Malkovich trailed off everything he was doing like he was almost bored. Whereas all those sentences, Busey is finishing them strong.
They're going to have exclamation points.
Oh, I don't... Because this would have been post-accident Busey, wouldn't it have been, in 97?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're right.
I think, no, not for Malkovich. If I was going to put Gary Busey in this movie, honestly, and it sucks because I think it would make the character way too funny, I would put him in Steve Buscemi's role. Because, Gary Busey saying that line where he's like, I wore that girl's head on my hat, like a head. He would just be stumbling over that.
As I drove through 3 states.
Yeah.
It would have been the Predator 2 speech. Just like, I'm a fucking serial killer.
He would have sold the serial killer. I would have been more nervous for the little girl in that movie if it was Gary Busey.
They're definitely editing out the scene where they show she's still alive.
Yeah.
In this segment of Random Asinine Thoughts and Trivia, John, do you have any little details or strange reactions you'd like to mention before we move on?
I had a really random theory that this whole thing takes place in John Malkovich's head during being John Malkovich. Because John Cusack's still there, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is John Cusack pushes subconscious down so he could control the body and be the puppeteer. I mentioned that Cole Meany was right. They should have shot the plane down. It would have saved so many things. One random thing I noticed was Cameron Poe goes to prison for involuntary manslaughter because he's a killing machine, but he saves the day via voluntary manslaughter? Even if it's for the greater good. You're technically on parole. You're not allowed to murder anyone for any reason.
Watching it this time, that line that Nick Cage had at one point where he just said, it looks like it's not going to be Mai Tais and Yahtzee yet. And I was like, who the hell mixes those? You're you're at like a swim-up bar at a resort. You're not bringing Yahtzee with you.
Right?
I thought it was very strange, and I didn't like... His accent was just so... He always sounded so bored.
He did.
He came up with that accent because he has a poor viewpoint of Southerners. It's almost insulting, I think.
The line when he's put the bunny back in the box, but, like, you're right. He sounded bored when he was saying that. It's supposed to be his daughter's whole thing, and he's just like, I'm gonna fall asleep halfway through this, put the bunny back in the box.
I got for you, too. My first one is... Being the son of a retired corrections officer, I must point out a detail that he and many other screws would decry about the movie. All the COs in this movie refer to themselves as guards. Rachel Ticotin's character is known as Guard Bishop. Anyone in corrections will tell you that they hate being called guards. It's belittling, like a guard is someone you post outside someone's door to keep watch. They're corrections officers. They go to an academy. They do a lot more than walk around twirling keys on the end of a nightstick. Whenever you hear them call each other guards, in this or any other movie with prison officers, you can bet the screenwriter didn't talk to anybody in that profession.
That's funny.
Yeah, don't ever call them guards. They'll correct you.
Back home, I did know a correctional officer, and he always had stories about lining people up and then farting on them and making them stand there. What? These are, like, hardened criminal, but, you know, it's a farming community, so it was really just people who stole cars.
I'm still going to call that an abuse of power.
It really, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't tell the correctional system.
Cruel and unusual or funny as hell?
Both. It could be both.
My second bit of rat, Dave Chappelle is in this film. I met him in 2008 in San Francisco. This was after he left Chappelle's show. Maybe he had just come back from Africa. I met him and he was an asshole. And since 2008, I told myself I would never watch anything of his ever again. So for this podcast, it's the first time I've seen something of his since probably 2005.
Oh, wow.
Hey, what was the context in which you met him? I don't want to defend him.
Well, I met him on the Embarcadero.
Oh, so he was walking the street?
Yeah, he had a friend/bodyguard with him, and there was nobody. It was a dead time of day. When I approached him, I wasn't trying to out him to a mob or anything, but he was so dismissive of me, and I had loved him up until that point from Chappelle's show. It was such a big part of my high school experience, and then for him to just be such a dickhead. I understand, maybe he was having a bad day, and that's one encounter out of a lifetime. You know, that's the one time I'm going to meet him, more than likely. And it wasn't good, so that's why anytime I have an opportunity to badmouth him, I will.
Do it. More power. Let's bash him.
Andrew, what do you think are Nicolas Cage's strengths as a performer?
His wackiness and how he can go... I'll say range. Yeah, range is the neutral term for that. He can go from 0 to 100 real quick. And depending on the role he's doing, it sometimes really works, sometimes it really doesn't. I know we're not talking about it, but the movie Face Off is like a perfect example of that, where you just see manic Nicolas Cage and you see muted Nicolas Cage. Sometimes I wonder if it's just because he has good comedic timing as well, and I don't know if it's because he's a meme at this point, or if he's always been that funny. I think he does have like some pretty solid comedic chops, it seems. He can be funny when he needs to be.
John, what do you think is a good comedic performance of his outside of Raising Arizona?
Have you seen The Massive Weight of Undeniable Talent, I think it's called?
No. Was it good?
Oh, I wanted to see that too.
That's great, and he plays so well. I'm going to say Ghost Rider 2.
I don't think that's an intentionally funny movie, is it?
You know, I think that's up for debate because it was directed by the two gentlemen who did the Crank movies, and they basically made Crank 3. But it was a Ghost Rider movie.
Oh boy, you're selling me.
You should see it and like watch the interviews with him talking about all the stuff because he loves Ghost Rider, and they just let him go nuts. And he brought all this weirdness to the role. He juggles the fact that like Ghost Rider is like two characters. It's the Johnny Blaze possessed by an angel, and he's trying to like mix the two. Watch it. It's hilarious.
I've only seen the first one. I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters. Like, I just never wanted to watch it again.
The first one is, I'm going to say, disappointing, and the second one was just like, they go for it.
And John, when we look at his career in totality, do you fall on the side of Nicolas Cage being a pretentious nut or possibly misunderstood acting genius?
I would like to hear the argument for pretentious nut. I think it's undeniably acting genius.
I'm not going to say I think he has incredible range. I think he's a little bit like Tom Cruise in that when he's in a role, yes, he can put on a beard, change his hair, do a lot of stuff with makeup that puts him in the part, but that's Nicolas Cage doing the acting. Whether he has that variety of skills in him, I'm not sure, but I really appreciate the diversity of films he's been in. And the fact that it seems like he's willing to put himself out there and not stick to what maybe he's best at, that he'll try basically any role. So we've gotten to see him with so many different faces.
It's a pun? Are you coming with another pun?
No, damn it. You guys have talked about Face Off enough.
I think that's got a lot of emotional baggage for the show, that movie.
John, don't make me take your face off.
No more drugs for that, man.
Good. Our next flick, Snake Eyes, gives us front row seats to a heavyweight bout in Atlantic City. Local detective and schmoozer Rick Santoro, like Zorro, not Rick Santorum, the politician, is overseeing the security for the fight. His old friend, Naval Officer Kevin Dunn, is there as part of the Secretary of Defense's entourage. All hell breaks loose when the Secretary is assassinated during the fight. Commander Dunn neutralizes the lone gunman, but something doesn't add up for Santoro. With the arena under lockdown, Santoro comes to identify a conspiracy that includes a championship boxer, the arena director, and government operatives. As he gets deeper into the mystery, his own ethics will need searching. For what use does a dirty cop have for doing the right thing? And I like, Andrew, that you said at the beginning you don't like long summaries. Well, eat your heart out, buddy.
I can tell you absolutely wrote that down and
Heck yeah.
probably agonized over it, too.
Heck yeah.
I always get, we'll call it penis envy over Frank's summaries.
Nah, dude, just wing it. Just do what I do. Just wing it.
I do, and I always, I get halfway through I get halfway through, and it's just like, I've lost all confidence in what I'm doing.
I've winged it in the past, but I've noticed a lot of my guests don't like to explain stuff for the audience. So I put it up front in the summary. Hopefully people won't get lost, and that hopefully you guys will at least reference their character names at least once.
I don't think I do.
To be fair, the movie that I had to summarize is Con Air. What else is there? I had no idea what Snake Eyes was about coming into this.
And Andrew, was there anything special about Cage in this for you? Did you dig him?
This was one of the movies that I would say is absolute manic Nick Cage, but he quiets down when he needs to. This is a range movie for him, definitely, because I wanted to slap him so hard in the opening scenes of the movie because he was so freaking obnoxious.
Right?
And then later on, when he's uncovering things and he's actually doing his detective work, it's like, okay, he's quieted down a little bit. He's still being weird, but he's not being the guy he was at the beginning. Now he's being a serious cop. It shows how he can just do manic acting, you know?
What the hell's the matter with you? Don't talk shit like that where people can hear. You don't understand. I pulled rank on the regular detail and took command of security. I told him the secretary would be better protected with me running the operation because I know the area, the layout of the arena, and no local law enforcement. I get assigned, I step out of position, the secretary takes a bullet in the throat. Why were you out of position? I should never have left him. I could be court-martialed for this. That is not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen. Do you understand? You're not going to prison, so you just forget about that. All right, back up. Why were you out of position? The girl, the redhead. I went over to check her out. She ran, and I followed her up here. Don't say redhead, don't say girl. That's all wrong. What you say is suspicious character. You followed a suspicious character. When you got up here, you saw an assassin fire, so you took him out. End of story. Leaving my post is dereliction of duty. It's gross negligence. You killed the assassin. You saved the day. You're a hero, Kevin. That's what happened, and that's how it was fit. It wasn't procedure. Screw procedure! Look, who do you think you're talking to? I'm not some beat cop that needs you to plan a piece for him. Kevin, there's one thing I know, it's how to cover my ass. I see this shit happen every day. And what you say and do right this minute is going to change the rest of your life. Go to confession later, but don't bury yourself now. Okay, those are state cops. They're gaming enforcement. They're going to try to muscle us, but we're not going to let that happen. So we just got to fight these guys for an hour and a half, and you're in the clear, okay? I can't lie, Rick. It isn't lying. You just tell them what you did right, and you leave out the rest.
Andrew, can you think of another movie where he's such a slick talker?
Honestly, in the National Treasure movies, he was pretty slick. I feel like in a lot of movies, he plays that slick guy to a point. Like,
this one, he's pretty oily.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember.
I mean, I know in Matchstick Men he was a con man, but I don't remember him bullshitting as much as he does in this movie with characters.
Well, like Lord of War, I haven't seen the whole thing, I will be honest, but like that one, he's a slimy dude, gun dealer. He's slick, though.
But where Nicolas Cage is a fast talker, he has so much dialogue at the beginning of this movie, and he's so glad-handing and corrupt. I just don't really think of him doing many roles like that.
I want to say maybe The Rock, he gets pretty fast out of nervousness, but again, that's just genius acting, right? Right?
Yeah, that's more neurotic fast-talking than overconfident fast-talking. Andrew, since you did do the Mission Impossible marathon with me, I must ask you this. What DNA do you see that's shared in the directing choices between Snake Eyes and the first Mission Impossible, both directed by Brian De Palma?
If I want to get like super technical, the color grading seems very similar. But the biggest thing I can think of is the scenes that were done in first person. Certain sequences were all first person shots, like you kind of had some of those in the first Mission Impossible as well. Just really played with the intrigue in a great way. There was that scene in Mission Impossible where before everything goes south, Ethan's in the disguise, and you see it's him entering the party, and you see everything from his angle, and people are talking to him, and he's going up the stairs and stuff. There was a lot of the same DNA. It was cool to watch, because when I saw, directed by Brian De Palma, I thought, okay, that's interesting, and then I could see, oh, yeah, this is De Palma. It's De Palma.
And this was written by or co-written by David Koepp, and he wrote the script for Mission Impossible, I believe. Because he's working with the same screenwriter both times, De Palma loves his flashbacks, doesn't he?
But it definitely works in this movie, I think, a little bit better in the sense that there are flashbacks that give us new angles on the crime that took place, the assassination. It's really cool, and the way he does it through the character's eyes. Because it's not so, I don't want to say it's necessarily a flashback, because it is, but it's the character, like, telling their story to Nick Cage. You know, you have it with the boxer, you have it with Lieutenant Dan. That's just kind of how you see it.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Dan.
I can't see him in anything And doesn't he play like Colonel Dunn?
Lieutenant Dan, yeah, playing Commander Dunn.
Yeah.
He's playing Kevin Dunn in a movie with an actor named Kevin Dunn.
Damn it, man, save that for Rat.
Ah, no, I couldn't. I got so excited. I do have it written down under my Rat stuff, but I got really excited.
Well, you've wasted it.
I can bring it back. I'll bring it back.
No, that's all right.
Oh.
John, let's say you didn't recognize the actors or the level of technology on screen. Do you think you'd be able to tell this is a 90s film?
No, I don't think so. It's, like, clearly not modern day, but I don't think I'm going to be able to pinpoint it. Not like the other two movies on this list are just, like, pure 90s action movies. I'll go one step further, because I remember watching this when it came out, and I didn't like it then, and I think I liked it much more this time around. Because it didn't seem to age as much as the other two.
Why did you dislike it back then?
Probably just too young to really appreciate just the filmmaking of it. How many long shots was in this movie? It's the first, 20 minutes was a continuous take, using tricks of zooming out from another camera, and all of a sudden we're there with it, and then following all your opening characters around.
Yeah, I want to say it was closer to 13 minutes, and I thought it was a very natural way of using it, because it really brings you into the arena and gets you into the crowd. I hate in some movies that use this frenetic editing, and then they just insert this one long take in there that feels like it doesn't belong in the movie at all, and they're just trying to show off. But this, it felt natural for the story they were telling.
It's the first thing you see, it's a good introduction to all the characters, and you don't get a take until after the crime. That's when things change, and like I said earlier, with the technical stuff, that's when things change. I think Brian De Palma put together a really good film.
Well, I don't think this movie gets a lot of attention in Cage's filmography. Do you think it belongs in the pantheon of good 90s thrillers?
I would say yes, but the other two movies on this list are, I think, higher rated, and they made way more money. That's the Hollywood game, right? It's just like, which one's made money?
Well, this one's smarter, but those ones are more fun. I gotta give them that. I can see how they would make more money than this one did.
Yeah.
I want to say this one maybe lost a little money or broke even.
I could see that, and one complaint about the movie, too, would be like the third act kind of falls apart for me.
We'll get there.
Yes!
Stop skipping ahead so much, damn it.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm going to get asked these questions.
You're a bucking bronco.
I'm off the rails.
I must tame you.
Whoa.
Here's a sugar cube. Take it. Lick it.
That's a whole different podcast.
Andrew, who do you like the most as a supporting character in this?
It's a toss-up between... I do think Lieutenant Dan plays a really good bad guy. I also did like the fat guy who was trying to have sex with the female lead, and he was just like, alright, well, F you if you don't want to have sex. I'm married. I thought he was a funny guy, because he was just so pissed that he wasn't getting what he wanted, and then, like, he got kicked out of his hotel room, was storming down the halls, sees a man in the military, and is immediately like, come with me, look at what I had to deal with. And it's just like, didn't even seem to care that the guy pulled out a gun. He was more concerned about the silencer, and I don't even think he really was upset about that either.
Oh, that's a cool silencer.
Yeah.
That scene, he's like, there I am, writing a lovely letter to my wife. Like, he needs to explain himself to this stranger as to why there's what he thinks is a hooker in his hotel room.
Yeah.
He's a feckless nerd. It totally works for his character, and I know I've seen that guy in other stuff back in the 90s, and he always plays like a lower echelon Steve Buscemi weird guy. John, do you recognize him from News Radio?
No, I don't.
He's the guy that tries to kill Bill McNeil.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Who's obsessed with him. Or I think he just hates him.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, the real deal Bill McNeil was hateable in that show. As lovable as he was.
I think he was the Santa.
Oh, no way. I only really remember him from Malcolm in the Middle as the mom's boss.
Does he play a jerk-off there?
Yeah, he's a jerk there, too.
I want to compliment the champion boxer that takes the dive. When Santoro is interrogating him, that whole flashback explaining why the boxer did it and his POV in the ring when the shots were fired, it felt like a fantastic short film. I'm glad they brought that character back to do more in the final act. John, what was your favorite scene?
I gotta go with the opening. I gotta go with that tracking shot where you get to see everybody. Obviously I didn't notice it when I was younger, so as a now film school graduate, it really caught my eye.
I want to do a quick survey. Andrew, when did you realize it was a oneer?
It was when Nicolas Cage, when he was walking out into the arena section. He was in the halls for a bit, talking with Lieutenant Dan, but when the camera turned and followed him into the arena area, that's when I thought, oh, shoot, they've been doing this as one long take. I think I knew about it, but I realized, like, damn, that's a really long... It was more of a recognition of, man, he memorized all those lines. I know it's camera tricks, but that's a lot of dialogue to remember. He answered, like, 3 phone calls. He had, like, 3 conversations with people. He beat up Luis Guzman. There was a lot going on.
A crime. A true crime.
Typically for long shots, if I want to ruin the illusion for myself, I'll look at a lot of camera movements. I'll start to follow the camera movements if they're going past, like, a wall or something, or if someone just walks in front of it. That's what I'm kind of looking for, because, like, that is to me, like, or any weird zoom in and zoom outs, that's where I'm thinking that's the edit. There are a couple moments. I'm sure if we were to look at it again, we might be able to spot, like, someone walk in front of it, or the camera turns a little too fast and it gets a little blurry.
Quick pans are always a fake cut.
Yeah.
And like you said, a zoom in on someone's back or something.
Yeah, I had flashbacks to Birdman. I'm so glad this isn't Birdman.
Did you not like that movie? We can have this discussion off the air.
We already did. It's in the podcast.
We did.
Andrew, what was the worst aspect of the film for you?
One thing that set off alarm bells for me was when everyone's trapped inside the arena, casino, whatever, the female lead, for a good chunk of that time, is wearing all white and she's absolutely covered in blood. It seems like no one gives a damn. And she's able to just kind of chill like that for arguably, if you think of it in like real time, there's probably like a good half hour she was like that before she got a shirt and slipped away. Maybe I'll give her 20 minutes before she slipped away in a black shirt. They shut the place down, they're taking statements, they're getting information. No one saw that? Casinos have first aid staff. They would be flooding the place, you know? So I just thought it was wild that you could see that from a mile away. She stuck out in a crowd, and so that took me out of it quite a bit, actually. Especially because that's a lot of blood, and I know not all of it was hers, but still. When I feel like you've lost half a body's worth of blood in the movie, because there's a lot of it, it's kind of like, alright, you'd be passing out.
You're 100% right on that. And to further illustrate, when we see her at the beginning of the movie and Nicolas Cage is looking at her, she's wearing that white trench coat. She's got that super blonde wig on. Doesn't she also have big glasses, too?
Yeah.
It's like, my God, you look like a film noir character. If I just walked by her on a street, I'd go, oh my God, what file is she hiding?
Yeah, she looks like she's carrying state secrets. Which she was.
Nobody looked like her.
Yeah, right. She was carrying state secrets. She's definitely on her way to walk into a joint.
If I forced you guys to have to draw a caricature of what a character like that in a movie would look like, you would have drawn her.
Perfect police sketch.
It's always funny when the disguise is actually more obvious than them just being themselves. The short hair and the suit, she would have blended in a lot better. But yeah, no, she looked the part.
I'd love Santoro to have to describe her to a sketch artist. He stops in the middle of the drawing like, stop screwing with me. What'd she really look like?
Let's just draw the boobs.
I think the script is great, except for the epilogue that I thought made it too much of a Hollywood ending. And there's one really on-the-nose shot of money stained with blood that Santoro is looking at when Dunn propositions him.
Oh, yeah.
Literal blood money.
Mm-hmm.
We get it.
I said that word out loud to my wife, and she wasn't even in the room. She was, I think, in the kitchen washing dishes. I was like, literal blood money. And she's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, how could you leave that in, De Palma? Who was that, like a test screening or something?
I just imagine him clapping, watching the movie on his own. It's like, blood money, blood money.
Pat himself on the back. Ah, genius.
John, does the reveal of Dunn's involvement in the assassination plot work for you?
No, I don't think it does. It was a weird tonal shift. You got this good thriller going on, and then as soon as that long tracking shot follows him to behind the scenes of this arena, he immediately is like a bad guy from a different movie. He's like almost a supervillain. He walks back there and be like, our evil plans are coming to fruition, but we have a bump on the road. It would have been better if the reveal came later, after Nick Cage's character heard the female lead's confession of it being him.
But then we wouldn't have that beautiful scene going up to the hotel room.
I think that scene would have been better. It would have given the audience time to get suspicious of Gary Sinise's character, Kevin Dunn.
It wouldn't have been suspicious for him to be looking for that woman in the white, so if we had no idea he was a bad guy and the scene played out the same, it would make sense for him to go in there holding a gun because he thinks he's going to be... The silencer would be weird, but that could be like the little tip where you're kind of like, huh, why do you have a silenced gun, you know?
Because there's nothing to tip the audience off. I don't know if it's respect for the audience, which is like, look, this is a bad guy, we're not going to mess with you. But like something, because it is a conspiracy, so you can't trust one person involved. Turns out you can't trust like 5 people involved. But let the audience engage more before revealing him in what felt like a tonal shift of a scene.
Well, De Palma's known for his suspense, and if we're not in a superior position as the audience, knowing who the bad guy is, then it deflates the bad guy's ability to be menacing if we're wondering the whole time, well, who is it? But if I were to push your thought along, I might say this movie probably needed a red herring, because even if they reveal Gary Sinise at the end of the movie, who else could it have been? There's nobody else they throw at you.
That might be why they revealed him early.
Yeah.
Because red herrings are kind of bullshit sometimes.
And then it's funny that you say you didn't like that turn where Sinise looks like a stone-cold killer. I think it just shows that he's so well trained from his time in the military, juxtaposed against Carla Gugino as the analyst in her white getup and wig and so obvious. Gary Sinise, he's playing a guy who can put on a disguise. He's got that uniform on with the ribbon board. It's like, oh my god, he's a hero. Nobody would suspect me. And then that mask comes off when he takes out that silencer.
I didn't have a problem with the reveal until now.
Yes!
I do like a good twist, but I also do understand that sometimes it is nice to know who the bad guy is beforehand. I think it's kind of halfway through the movie that they reveal it, or a little bit before, right?
I would say that's the end of the first act.
Yeah.
They did it too in the middle. If you're going to do a big reveal, do it near the end of the second act, or honestly have us know he's the bad guy from the very beginning. Or give us that suspicion from the very beginning. Because it was kind of out of nowhere where you see like the redhead and then that other random beard dude and then he just shoots him.
Let's forget the circumstances of how Gary Sinise's character is revealed to be the bad guy. John, did you at least enjoy his villainous performance?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Gary Sinise. He's a great actor. He's gonna bring it. He's not a... I say this a lot about him, and I always have to explain it. He's not a bright actor. Makes it sound like I'm saying he's dumb, when he's very smart.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with that.
You can't cast him as, like, a happy-go-lucky guy. You gotta cast him as a downtrodden individual.
Oh, yeah.
Like Lieutenant Dan or Kevin Dunn, who is angry and has given the award for millionth time a evil military man has given a speech about how politicians are the problem, even though they're the bad guy.
I like Gary Sinise, but he has a very good niche. Of the movies of his I've seen, Lieutenant Dan is probably his warmest role, but everything else he's very matter-of-fact and calculated, and he plays it so well. I thought he was a great villain. He was good.
I don't remember him being a villain in too many things, but what's cool when he does do it, when he puts on the villain hat, I think he does self-righteous villain so well. Like, if you don't pay attention to what he's saying and just look at his mannerisms and how much he believes it, it's like, yeah, Commander Dunn, you're so right. Man, politics are so screwed up, huh? You needed to do this. You had to fix things.
He had me going for a little bit. It made sense. He also had good, I don't want to say intentions, but he had great motivations, like it's the classic, they don't know what really happens in Washington. We lose lives when they dick around. Like, I thought it was an amazing motivation for him, and he played it perfectly.
Going into our final movie of the night, Gone in 60 Seconds. Cage plays Memphis Raines, formerly the best car boost in LA, who's now a mechanic, keeping his nose clean up north. When younger brother Kip owes a Long Beach gangster 50 cars or his life, Memphis returns and gets together his old crew to steal those cars in 12 hours, all the while 2 detectives are hot on his trail. John, is this too cookie-cutter of a protagonist for Cage?
I don't think it's too cookie-cutter for Cage. I think it's too cookie-cutter for... anything wrong with this movie, I'm going to blame on Jerry Bruckheimer, even though I owe him my childhood.
Well, do you see any moments where Cage makes Memphis his?
Yes. There's a scene when he has to pretend to act, where he's talking to a trucker.
That's funny.
It's that same thing from Con Air.
Now I know exactly what you mean. You're referencing 2 movies, and I know exactly what you mean.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, another one for you, John. Being a heist movie with a lot of car stuff, how does it contrast to a later flick like Fast and Furious? Do you think it does anything better with its driving sequences?
I think it does everything better.
Oh.
That's a great question. Because I literally had this discussion with my wife while watching the movie. Sorry to Gone in 60 Seconds. She came in halfway through and needed 0 context to know what was going on. It was the same discussion of like, oh, this is basically Fast and Furious. But more story, and it being a car chase movie, they save it. They save the big one for the end.
This has more story than Fast and the Furious?
Somehow.
I was surprised how long they waited until the car stuff jumps off. It does happen, roughly the last 20 minutes is when it pops off?
The Eleanor chase is the 3rd act, basically.
And Andrew, since you're a local, what do you think of the portrayal of LA and Long Beach?
I hated it. I mean, honestly, it's pretty realistic, I would say, in terms of, like, the settings and stuff. It's not like how La La Land did it, where everything was so romanticized and clean. There are some grungy parts of the LA area and Long Beach. I hated hated the filters that they had on this movie because they gave everything that yellow and the sepia tone, and just like I was annoyed immediately because it's the beginning of the movie. They have that, and I'm just thinking like, we're in the goddamn city. Why is there the sepia filter? Like, that's for deserts and stuff. Or if you film in Mexico, you have to use the sepia filter for some reason.
Have you been? That's what it looks like down there.
I have. I went in high school. I don't remember it, you know, but like...
If you try to remember, it's going to be in black and white now.
Oh, no.
Oh.
And raining. It's going to be raining.
Oh, shots fired. I just didn't like the filters they put over everything. Like, it can get hot here, but it doesn't get that. It's not sepia filter hot. I just thought it was a really weird choice, and I just didn't understand it. And it did put a damper on the movie because it's like they showed the city, but I felt like it wasn't LA. It's not an LA filter, if that makes sense.
That became like the color palette for all the early 2000s movies, too. Watching that, I feel like I've seen this in a bunch of other movies.
Examples? Because I'm trying to think of one, because I feel like blue was kind of like the big one. It still is.
Pick any Michael Bay movie.
Yeah, any Michael Bay movie after that, right?
Yeah. But I really liked the color choices. I thought it really helped it pop. But, John, tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like in a lot of the interiors, when they have this very strong lighting and you got those sharp shadows, I thought they were using colored gels on the lights, or were they messing with the color timing?
I want to say both. I want to say, having been through the process, because I went to film school, when you go in and you sit down with the editor and they color correct everything, basically, as a student, and you don't know what you're doing, and the editor knows what they're doing, they're like, hey, what colors do you want most prominent? You're like, green and gold. And they color correct it so that those are your good colors. Most of it was probably fixed in post, but a lot of it on set was the goal was to try to get there.
Because there were a lot of nice complementary color schemes, blues with yellows, greens, purples. The scenes where I noticed it, it really helped separate the foreground with the actors from the backgrounds. Now, it wasn't natural at all. It felt very produced, but it was eye-catching to me. Even though I guess Andrew feels it made LA and Long Beach look ugly.
Yep.
Even though this movie came out in the year 2000, consider it part of the 90s, what strikes you as particularly 90s in the style of the film?
I think John mentioned earlier with Con Air, it's the introductions. This is this guy, he does this, he does... The computer guy definitely reminded me of 90s because it's just like, we were still in that era where teams needed a computer guy, but there was always going to be, the most of the team was going to be like, well, why do I need a computer guy? We're stealing cars. And he's like, well, I can hack everything. And then he hacks things pretty much immediately to show his usefulness. Nowadays, like, teams are always going to have a computer guy. It's a given, and we don't need an explanation. So I felt like he made it very 90s-ish. The banter made it very 90s. The comedy of the movie, or I'll say the attempts at comedy, they felt very 90s coded. The snake in the car, I just didn't get it. But I was thinking to myself, like, yep, that's kind of 90s. Well, of course there's a snake in the car. They did it just so they could have the guy say, the snake's going up my ass. that's the only reason why they did it, because they thought that would be a funny line.
That's the not another teen movie, wisecracking black guy trope.
They had two in this movie that I can think of. They had that nice stereotype, and then...
But the other guy was Chi McBride. He did it so well.
Yeah, but it was still kind of like, okay, this one. And then Angelina Jolie's look, oh my god, dude. Oh my god. Whoever styled her on that movie should have been taken out back and shot. It was terrible. I hated her hair so much.
Shave her head. She'd have been better bald.
It's like they wanted to give her dreadlocks, but they got lazy. It's almost like they thought, real dreadlocks will be problematic. Let's just kind of gel her hair and twist it.
Let's see what happens.
In clumps. It'll look good.
It reminds me of my last dog. I accidentally taught it to hate white people with dreads.
Accidentally. Yeah, right.
I'd be walking him, and he'd bark at everybody, and be like, don't do that. And he'd be like, okay. And he learned it, but then he'd bark at a white guy with dreads, and secretly I'd be like, good boy. And then he just got the whole, like, all right, I need to bark at white people with dreads.
I want to go back to that car moment again with the snake. Maybe that was trying to be smarter than the rest of the movie, in that you got this slick macho, fast talker, short black dude. He's talking about the snake in the car, crawling up his ass. Maybe it's showing us him wrestling with his homophobia. Because what song is also playing in that moment, John? Who's the rapper?
DMX.
Oh, you're right.
And do you recall that DMX had some issues with homophobic lyrics?
Well, what rapper didn't?
What song was it, though? It wasn't Where the Hood At, right?
Lose My Mind. I think it was Up in Here.
It was Lose My Mind. Okay, yeah. If it was Where the Hood At, then I could say, yeah, like, I can get where you're coming from on that one, but no, I think they just... Actually, you know what? Maybe you're right, because was he the character that used the word f***y at some point?
Maybe. I don't remember hearing that.
I remember hearing that because I thought, like, the modern sensibilities, I'm like, oh, well, they just went there and I was just a PG-13, because you don't hear that anymore. And I was kind of like, oh, damn. But that was really, I mean, that's just how people spoke back then.
I think it was, if not him, it was somebody else in the younger crew.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go, dealing with themes, people.
No, it was just, they thought it was going to be hilarious. That's all it was. It wasn't. Who leaves a snake in their car?
An asshole who buys... I don't want to say this because I've ridden in a Humvee before and they're actually kind of awesome. But an asshole who buys a Humvee.
Hey fellas, you know, I'm taking a python in with me every time I get into a car. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my god.
You know what I'm saying, dog?
No, I don't. Elaborate.
Huh, player? Huh? 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 John, who's your favorite supporting character?
I like Giovanni Ribisi as an actor, but come on. Delroy Lindo? Come on.
I get this call from this uniform, you know. Axton, very nice man, remembers everything. This man calls me up, says, guess who's back in town? I say, who? He says, Randall Raines. I say, Randall Raines, the car thief? He says, yeah. I say, impossible. He says, no, he's back. I say, no, he's not. He says, yes, I will bet you $200 I just saw Randall Raines.
You guys said a lot. Look, detective.
No, whoa. What's really, really ironic about this, 2 nights ago, we snared these 13 fresh stones waiting for export. Right? Now, at the time, I'm thinking, this feels like Randall Raines. Now, I didn't have your panache, your flash, but just felt like Randall Raines. And now here you are.
Look, I don't know what you boys are looking for, but I just got back, okay? It was a family emergency. Now, that's the truth.
6 years ago, you make a real smart move. You know, you retire from a life that's going to get you busted or killed, or maybe even both. And I'm thinking, I'm not putting you away when I had a chance. It's like this big pock up the ass of this real impressive career that I've had.
Oh, yeah. Well, without disappointment, you can't appreciate victory.
I tell you what, from here on out, if you walk across the street outside of a crosswalk, if you roll through a stop sign, if you use an aerosol can in a manner other than directed, I mean, I don't care. You make one slip and I will put you away for good.
A, he's fun to watch. B, his name is fun to say. C, I saw him yelling at racist people, which was awesome. It's gonna be Delroy Lindo.
All right. I feel like you brought more out of the real world than you did in his performance.
Sorry. All right. How about the wait?
No, that's all right. Actually, let me ask you. We were talking about Angelina Jolie not looking so great in this movie. Do you think she looked better as Lara Croft or in Hackers?
That's an insane question. As a video gamer, I'm 40. It's going to be Lara Croft every day of the week.
That's all right. I'll take her in Hackers.
Wow. You're wrong.
Andrew, be the deciding vote.
Hold on a sec. Let me look her up in Hackers.
Hold on. Hey, how old are you, Andrew?
35.
Okay. So we're all... I don't want to lump you in with me because I'm in my 40, but we're all old men.
Oh, goodness. She looks like T'Pol.
Maybe that's part of it.
I'm giving it to Lara Croft.
Yes!
That doesn't count. You didn't see Hackers. You got to see her performance.
No.
The performance definitely will upset the balance.
Her stylist is terrible. It's like the stylist heard on the news or something, or in a style magazine, Angelina can look good in a burlap sack, she's so beautiful. And I would agree with that. But then she's like, I'm going to ruin her hair. It's like the stylist tried to make her look bad, and honestly somewhat succeeded. She's still gorgeous, but that hair was just terrible. Yeah, I don't know. It was hard for me not to stare at and be mad about.
She got caught in a trope for a while as a character she played where, like, always supposed to be, like...
Unhinged?
Well, the setup was the audience was supposed to assume it was a man because they were doing quote-unquote man jobs, and then the gag reveal is always like, it's a woman.
Oh, yeah.
This is like the prime example of, okay, there's a dude under a car working 2 jobs. Oh no, it's a woman with the worst hair you've ever seen in your life.
Oh, yeah, they did the same reveal in Hackers.
Exactly!
Okay, but now I challenge you, how about another movie after that? Because 2's coincidence, 3's the pattern.
Have you seen Wanted?
I forget how they introduce her in that.
I think she just shows up and kills people. I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while. I really like that director. Russian guy who made Night Watch and Day Watch.
All right, Andrew, what was your favorite scene?
All right, moving on.
The first part of the chase with Eleanor, I thought it ended terribly. The first part of it was pretty... There were like kind of 3 mini chases within one big chase, I felt. And so I would give it to the first part.
How about you, John? Favorite scene?
I'm going to give it to Christopher Eccleston's death scene because we haven't mentioned him yet. When they push him over the edge and he's falling and he doesn't like... There's no fear there. He just starts shooting like, I'm taking someone with me. Bang, bang.
Yeah.
The way they composited that made me think a little bit of Hans Gruber. But hey, Eccleston in this movie, he'll be fine because he regenerated after this.
He did, yeah. He landed. There was a bunch of weird yellow energy, and then David Tennant got up and started terrorizing Jessica Jones.
Andrew, what's one aspect you'd change to make Gone in 60 Seconds better?
I really didn't like how the Eleanor chase ended. I thought the ramp thing was so lame.
Oh, yeah.
Jumping that ramp was jumping the shark for you?
It was. It truly... Well, no, I'm going to be honest. Full disclosure, I really didn't care for this movie. It made it worse, you know?
Ooh.
You know what? I'm going to agree with that. This one aged the worst for me. 2000s fashion is starting to age just as bad as 80s fashion. Like, you can tell. Everyone's got the Caesar haircut and those stupid shades up and the soul patch.
And then, you know, Nick Cage's bleach look. Oh, Scott Conn looked ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I would change the style. I think of all these movies also, this would be the ripest for a remake. Because I don't think Con Air could be... You couldn't make that today. They'd suck all the fun out of it if you remade it. Snake Eyes... I don't think it would work nowadays.
Do they even have the craftsmanship to remake Snake Eyes?
They do, but I think they would go full art house on it and make it way too long, because it was a very well-paced movie. I think this one is bland enough to where almost anyone can take it and update it. Yeah.
Update's a good term because it is a remake of a 70s film.
I would cut people out of Kip's crew of young bloods. They were forgettable and annoying. Take that down from 5 to 3 and rework the scenes using who's left, and bring it down from needing to boost 50 cars to something lower to compensate for Memphis's smaller team.
48.
Well, that's another thing, too. They damage a few of those cars, and none of them stop to think that Christopher Eccleston isn't going to want those cars anymore. You know, don't you think that would come up conversation? Hey, there are bullet holes in this windshield. We're not going to take it.
Yeah, or like, this Humvee both has a snake in it and looks like it rammed into a cop car.
Yeah, they do some heavy damage to these cars. But then again, I was wondering that too when I was watching it, but then, like, he delivers the Shelby, it is beaten, but then he just immediately, like, destroys it. It's like, what the hell, man? Like, you can fix it.
It's because he was late, and that was the only character development Eccleston got, was being a stickler about time.
It's so silly.
Well, that and the weird woodworking bit, that felt straight out of a Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah. This is proto-Fast and Furious.
I remember when we watched Too Fast, Too Furious, that one of my complaints was that it didn't have a very good villain. And the solution in this movie was that, oh, he's going to be a woodworker.
Because he was woodworking with the wood plane, I think, right? He was making sure the thing was level, which can be a dangerous object, and they didn't even let him have that in the final fight.
Well, now, my favorite part of the show, our final segment, TLDL. I'm going to shoot some rapid-fire questions at you guys. Give me some short answers. Andrew, which of these is the best Cage performance?
Snake Eyes.
John, which movie had the best filmmaking?
Snake Eyes.
Andrew, long hair Cage or short hair Cage?
Short hair.
John, quiet Cage or chatty Cage?
Quiet Cage.
Andrew, best villain tonight?
Cyrus the Virus.
Yeah!
John, the Con Air plane stuff, the 60 seconds car stuff, or the boxing match sequence in Snake Eyes?
Con Air.
Andrew, which movie do you think has aged the worst?
Gone in 60 Seconds.
John, which movie is the best to watch when you're drunk?
Also Gone in 60 Seconds.
And final question for you, Andrew. What are you more upset by? Lack of male nudity in Con Air, or that Angelina Jolie kept her gear on the whole time in Gone in 60 Seconds?
I'm upset that Angelina Jolie kept her gear on.
You hear that, listeners? Andrew's a frickin' pervert.
Prevert.
I got it on record.
Oh my goodness.
The correct answer is always going to be man butt.
New episodes of The Screen Companion coming later in 2025. We'll talk more remakes, sci-fi action movies, and awful flicks we can barely admit to liking. All that and more coming up in Season 6. You've reached the end of this episode of The Screen Companion. Thank you for listening.